Hey guys, welcome back to another podcast here. Freddy Wills from FreddyWills.com. Just want to recap last week and get into some of the leans for this upcoming week for college football and talk about last week's game from a betting perspective and what it means for this upcoming week. 4-3 in the NFL, plus 3.8%. Unfortunately, an unlucky backdoor cover by the Bills and against the Dolphins, and then the Vikings giving up the late touchdown drive to the Cowboys, along with Carson Wentz handing the Titans the game with his two boneheaded interceptions late. I don't even know what to say about that. They lost in overtime, but those were our three losses. So very tough. Could have easily been, 5-2, 6-2, 6-1, or 7-0. We did win on our max play of the day with the Saints plus 4.5. Moving us to 74-38 on our max NFL play of the day. 66% winners since 2015, 110-88 in college, 55% since 2011 on 5.5% max play of the days, including 5-3 this year as we won again this past weekend with Fresno State winning late. Definitely rebounding from the backdoor cover they gave up last week where we took a loss with Fresno State. So they redeemed themselves and cashed this past week. But overall, it was not a good week in college football. I was happy to profit for NFL at least. Unfortunately, it should have been more profitable. And college football, I'm the first one to admit that when I make mistakes, and to be honest, I even make the same mistake, which is really a rookie mistake in when you're betting on sports, is betting too many games sometimes. I felt like I had an edge in a lot of the games, and that's why I give you guys a full in-depth analysis in my college football play so you guys can see my logic. And unfortunately, I think I should have probably eliminated some of them, but unfortunately, I made the mistake of playing them all. We gave out 12 plays on Saturday, but everybody that got those plays are getting this week for free, so hopefully I can come out with a great large profit for you guys. Obviously, I bet on these games myself a significant amount of money, so when you lose, I lose. I know it doesn't make it any easier, but rest assured, I'm going to work that much harder this upcoming week to give out some winners. Fortunately, my premium pick newsletter, I actually gave out my max play of the day in that newsletter, so make sure you guys are subscribing to that. You get the pick for free. FreddyWills.com at the top. You can just put in your email. It's just one email, one per week, with a premium play that clients get, and you get that for free. So I'm also lowering all my season packages with 5 to 6 weeks to go in the regular season, and obviously much more in the NFL season. I've cut all my prices in half, so you can get my college football plays for the rest of the year for $149 from $299. And if you want just my play of the days for NFL and college, I dropped that package from $199 now to just $99. And then this week I have a promotion, 2-week all-access package for $109 guaranteed profit or the rest of the season free. So let's get to it. Breaking down last week's card and what it means. We'll get some leans out to you guys on this podcast. I did go 3-2 on the leans. I think 3 out of the last 4 podcasts we've been profitable on our leans. So hope to continue that here again today. South Florida loses 29-14 at East Carolina, which I mentioned already was misleading. South Florida was 0 for 7 on third down, 2 for 4 on fourth down, turned the ball over 4 times. They'll play Houston this week as 13-point home dog. Houston off a monster win over SMU. I leaned South Florida plus 13, almost worth the play on the money line in my opinion, because I think Houston's always due for a clunker. Now that they're ranked, it could be a good time for it. South Florida with an extra couple of days to prepare here. The only problem is they do have Cincinnati on deck at home, so they might be looking towards that game a bit. I'm not sure, but obviously South Florida needs to focus on this game. They can't be looking ahead to number 2 Cincinnati next week, and I don't think they will. I do like this coaching staff. They moved the ball well last week at East Carolina. That game was much closer than the final indicated. If they can eliminate the mistakes and being back at home, I think they can. We could see them in a battle against Houston this week. Georgia, 34-7 win over the Gators was misleading. I'm probably in the minority here, but this was about to be a 3-0 game at the half here, and obviously I gave out Florida plus 14 as a premium play, 2% premium play. So maybe I'm biased, but this was about to be a 3-0 game going into the half, maybe 3-3 with Florida driving. They Georgia scored 3 touchdowns in the final 2 minutes of the half, and all of a sudden it was 27-0 because of the turnovers from the Gators. I've already faded Georgia by playing 2 other teams to win the national championship. Oregon at plus 2,500 and Ohio State at plus 700. Still live, obviously. Ohio State, a good bet because now they're plus 400 to win the national championship. We'll likely look to hedge at some point. I usually don't bet those type of futures, but I thought those 2 offered pretty good value. Georgia's looked great, but they really, in all honesty, haven't played anybody who is great on both sides of the ball. So I'm not exactly sold that they're going to run the table and win the national championship. And, Alabama could beat them and Georgia will still likely get in. But I still think that Oregon controls their own destiny, obviously. And at plus 2,500, I can't really argue with that value. I'm not sure how Florida gets off the mat after this game. Where's their motivation the rest of the way? They have South Carolina this week on the road. I lean South Carolina plus 19, and I'll look to fade Georgia moving forward. But facing Missouri this week is definitely not the time. Missouri 0-11 against the spread their last 11 games. So definitely going to be looking at South Carolina this week as a strong lean. Cincinnati was in a battle as they led 14-12 at the half as a 25.5 point favorite against Tulane. Tulane had 4 turnovers in the game, and Cincinnati still could not cover the spread. I think this is maybe a factor of them trying to cover the spread because these kids are definitely aware, and they definitely need style points here moving forward because they're still on the outside looking in. They need Notre Dame to keep winning, which Notre Dame has, which is definitely hopeful. But they definitely need to run the table, and they need to get some style points along the way. I think you have to be concerned with Cincinnati's offense. They only put up 350 yards against a defense that ranked 121st in yards per play. I think it could be Cincinnati just pressing a little too hard, trying to blow out opponents. This week they're a 22-point favorite against Tulsa. At least they're back at home, and I think they play this team really tough. They know that Tulsa played Ohio State tough, so I think there's motivation again for them to get a blowout. And if they're blowing this team out late, I think they'll look to continue to put their foot on the neck of Tulsa. So I do lean Cincinnati actually minus the points this week. Speaking of Ohio State, I was really sort of unimpressed with their game against Penn State. They won 33-24. But this was a 27-24 game in the fourth quarter. They did outgain Penn State by 72 yards, and they were plus 2 turnover margin. But Penn State had the first down edge, 27-22. Sean Clifford seemed to be, 100% again, and really a difference maker for Penn State. I'd like to say that I could back Penn State now that, Clifford is back and healthy, and I think there could be some value on them moving forward. But really, what is their motivation the rest of the way? Coming off the Ohio State game where, it's 27-24 game in the fourth quarter. Maybe they have the game, and now they got to play a Maryland team. And James Franklin, some are rumored that he's got 1 foot out the door. I just can't get to the window here with Penn State, but I definitely can't back Maryland. Ohio State, 14.5 point favorite at Nebraska. What am I talking about here? Oh, yeah. So, yeah, Nebraska, a story that seemed to be trending nicely, but Nebraska just can't win close games under Scott Frost. It's really sad to see because, I really like Scott Frost, what he did at UCF. And obviously, I like those guys that go back home to coach their alma mater, which Scott Frost did. He won a national championship with Nebraska. Really would like to see Nebraska back on the national landscape, and we saw signs of it possibly when they, nearly upset Oklahoma. They nearly upset Michigan State, who's now in the top 10, 2 top 10 teams that they nearly upset. And, they just lose this past week 28-23 to Purdue as a 7.5 point home favorite. And the issue, again, was turnovers. They were minus 4 turnover margin in the game. They did outgame Purdue, but it was all Purdue in the second half, outscoring Nebraska 14-6. And at this point, you have to ask, is Scott Frost out no matter what after the season? Do the players know it? I don't know. Do they care? Or is this the last hurrah for Frost in Nebraska to pull off a major upset at home and save Scott Frost's job? Either way, I think you do see a max effort from a team that's fully capable, if they play mistake-free, to upset Ohio State. This might be a little bit of a hedge in my Ohio State national championship bet. I mean, Nebraska, I think they play another close game here, and I don't think they're able to pull the upset at home, but I think that they have nothing to lose. They can play kind of free in this game, and Ohio State's got to be feeling a little bit of a pressure coming off the Penn State game. I lean Nebraska plus 15. Kentucky, off the bye, faced Mississippi State, a team that they held to 2 points last year. They were -4 turnover here, but also minus 222 yards in the defeat. I was a little surprised at this, but I'm still not going to overreact. Mississippi State has a great defense, especially at home at night, and the offense is much better than it was in Game 3 of last year when they just started the Mike Leach offense. So, I'm not going to overreact with Kentucky. Kentucky hosting Tennessee this week, and the game, they're pick -1. At first glance, I'm leaning towards Kentucky, but I definitely look at the game a little bit more because I know my algorithms actually lean Tennessee, so it might be a game that I just pass on. So no official lean there. And then you got Mississippi State, a 5-point dog at Arkansas. They have not been good on the road. I think Arkansas is coming off a bye. Arkansas definitely plays that drop their defenders in space that Mississippi State, I think, could struggle with. So I don't lean any way there, but I definitely don't lean on Mississippi State side. Wake Forest continued their dominance, 45-7 over Duke, and they'll be a 3-point dog at North Carolina this week, which is extremely interesting to have a number 10 team on the road as a dog against an unranked team. North Carolina still getting credit. We saw it last week, and I played North Carolina plus 3.5 at Notre Dame. Really, the difference in them not covering is missed tackles, especially on that 91-yard rushing touchdown from Kyron Williams. North Carolina's defense is a big issue. They could not stop a struggling Notre Dame offense that ranks outside the top 90 in offense and in passing offense and in rushing offense. It seems like a square play to back Wake Forest at this point, but North Carolina has not shown me anything on defense last week to think that they can stop Wake Forest on offense. It's a very intriguing game that Wake Forest needs a big win to be considered, a challenger for the college football playoff. I think they have possibly an NFL quarterback in Sam Hartman. And they obviously lost this game at North Carolina last year, 53-59. So I think that they have plenty of confidence, obviously. And I think Wake Forest is much better than from last year's team to this year's teams, and I think North Carolina is far worse. So I think the only way you could look at is Wake Forest. Although I think that you're gonna probably see that as a very popular favorite public dog in Wake Forest. When you see, I'm seeing 69% people picking Wake Forest. I don't know what to do with that game because I like Wake Forest. I've been looking for an opportunity to play them. This might not be it. Definitely gonna have to look at it a little bit more. I want to see because obviously their rushing defense is an issue. We saw it against Army. North Carolina has a great rushing offense with that RPO that they run, and Sam Howell, very capable running quarterback. I think that game's going to just go back and forth. So definitely interested to watch the game. No official lean right now. Texas +3 was a premium play of mine at Baylor, and when Texas was up 21-10 late in the third quarter, I felt really good about our chances of bringing a win for myself and clients. But Baylor, honestly, they deserved the game. They deserved the win. They ran the ball better than Texas, which shocked me. Texas just 2 for 5 on fourth down and 3 for 14 on third down. That really cost them this game. Texas +7 at Iowa State, a team that lost last week to West Virginia, another game that I was on that was a loser. This is really shaking up the Big 12 race. Iowa State has 2 losses in the conference. Texas has 3 losses in conference play. And there are 5 teams ahead of Texas. I really don't think Texas has a chance to get to the Big 12 title game after the loss to Baylor. So I think that they're in kind of like a dream crusher role. I'm not going to say I lean the Iowa State way either. Iowa State, they need a little help. They need both Baylor and Oklahoma State to lose some games. They need to win out themselves. And actually, they need Baylor to lose twice since they lost head-to-head. So, again, this game was supposed to be a much more interesting than it actually is. I will say that Iowa State being a touchdown favorite, I think compared to years past, that is a massive move because I think Iowa State is typically a large underdog, even when they seem to have the better team. And Texas getting 64% of the action here. There's no way I could go back to backing Texas here, especially since, I think they just had a dream-crushing loss against Baylor, and now they're going on the road. Big 12 title, getting into the championship game is definitely on hold. Yeah, so Iowa State, a 1-point favorite last year. Texas, a 7-point dog the year before. Texas, a 1-point favorite, a 5-point favorite, a 17-point favorite. So they were a 7-point dog last time at Iowa State, and Texas covered that spread. So definitely, I just don't trust Iowa State as a favorite. I backed them the last 2 weeks. They lost. They just don't come home as a favorite. It's very frustrating. Moving on, Pitt loses after their big win to Miami. I mentioned on the last podcast how impressed I was with quarterback from Miami, Van Dyke, he actually impressed me even more this last week against Pitt. 426 passing yards, 3 touchdowns on the road. Pitt did outgain them, 587 to 490, but Miami won the game. I definitely don't trust Miami now after covering 3 straight games in a row. They've returned home, and now they're getting some credit again, and they're a double-digit favorite against Georgia Tech. Definitely lean towards Georgia Tech there, especially since Georgia Tech was off a loss. So it seems to be like a buy low, sell high situation here, as Georgia Tech lost at home as a favorite against Virginia Tech, 26-17. Virginia Tech was held to 4 field goals in the game, and they still win. They did outgain Georgia Tech 491 to 366, so it wasn't really a fluky win. Georgia Tech had 2 turnovers, and they went 1 for 3 on 4th down, 3 for 12 on 3rd down. So those were the big reasons they lost the game. And, obviously this week going up against Miami, Miami's defense is far worse than Virginia Tech. So I think they'll have some more success. I think they'll cover this spread. Washington State upsetting Arizona State on the road is probably the shocker of the week, as it was game 2 without their head coach for Washington State. We thought that they would have a big effort against BYU, and they did the week before. But I question their motivation on the road against Arizona State. They won 34-21 thanks to a +4 turnover margin. They jumped out to a 28-0 lead and then cruised from there. Washington State gets a bye, and I'll look to fade them the rest of the way, especially carrying the momentum of this win into a bye. Not always a good thing coming out on the other side. I mean, they don't really have the coaching staff for the 2-week bye to keep the team's momentum going. So, I will look to fade Washington State the rest of the way. Arizona State, 8-point favorite against USC. It might be time to fade the Sun Devils. Not sure I want to back USC after a win. So they've kind of gone every other week, win-loss, win-loss. So, but 8 points seems like a lot to me. I think that these 2 teams could be competitive. So it'll be interesting to see. Virginia, a premium release, and I was embarrassed to start that game. I stayed up late for it, that game and the Fresno game, and BYU gets out to a 28-7 lead. Virginia actually did come back and actually led 42-38 at the half, which was just crazy. And at that point I felt really good because Virginia went on a 35-10 run, and they just, in the second half, they couldn't stop BYU again. In the second half, they had 3 turnovers, and their star quarterback, Brennan Armstrong, got hurt in this game. I think it was late in the third quarter. Likely broke his ribs. Who knows what happens if that doesn't happen? But either way, I can truthfully say I was on the wrong side in that game. And Virginia gets the bye, and then they'll go at Notre Dame next week. And, I've been so wrong on Notre Dame games this year. I don't think I'll play that game. Never say never, but I really think that Notre Dame hasn't faced a balanced team. They haven't faced a team's either really good at passing the ball and not good at running the ball, or really good on offense and really bad on defense. And it's going to be much the same. Virginia, really good on offense, really bad on defense. So I think Notre Dame has really kind of gotten lucky in their schedule that has them sitting at one loss. And I mean, really, if they run the table, they could be considered for getting into the college football playoff. BYU here gets a layup against Idaho State, so not really much to talk about there, but there's still a team that I'm going to look to fade down the stretch probably. So we got 4 more games to talk about here. Florida State loses to Clemson 20-30. Clemson did not play a good game and covered the spread. I predicted it. I said I was not on Clemson this week, and that they would probably cover the spread. I said that on last week's podcast. The way they did it made it even more comical as they returned. And I apologize if you guys were on this, anyone was on this game on the under or on the Florida State side. It really sucked as Clemson recovered a fumble, took it in for a touchdown with 0 seconds on the clock as Florida State was trying to pull off a miracle with the tossbacks. It's one of those covers you dream of if you're on the Clemson side, and then it's, I feel like I haven't been on that side of a game before. I've definitely been on the opposite side, and then obviously those that had the under lose the game with that touchdown. Really tough to swallow, and very lucky if you bet on Clemson there. Gary Patterson out for TCU after Kansas State dominated them, winning 31-12. TCU asked him to finish out the season, and he pretty much gave them the middle finger and quit on his team. It will be very interesting to see if TCU gets a 1-game bump here with no Patterson. It kind of seemed to me like maybe the players didn't like him that much, and I honestly think that they will be, will be hosting Baylor this week, and they're a touchdown dog at home. Their coach is gone. I do think at the end of the day they give a max effort. I definitely lean towards TCU at +7 this week. Baylor has a huge look-ahead game here with Oklahoma next week. They might be looking past TCU, who just fired their coach, or rather a coach actually quit on them because, TCU did say, hey, finish out the season for the kids, and he said no. I think that's ego taking over in that case. Because Gary Patterson did a lot of good things for TCU over the years. He's been here for a long time. Maybe he deserved more respect. But I could argue that TCU was giving him the respect by saying, hey, listen, you're going to be out at the end of the season. We want to be transparent and let you know now. Will you stay on, lead these kids the rest of the way? I can't say that I maybe blame Gary Patterson. It's hard to say that you're going to be all in the rest of the season and do what's right for these kids when you know that you're going to be gone, and maybe he's doing what's right for the kids by, stepping away, taking the distraction out of it, and letting these kids proceed. Wyoming outgained San Jose State, but they were 2 for 5 on 4th down, -2 turnover. They lose 27-21. Wyoming goes back at home. They'll host a Colorado State team as a 4-point dog at home. And, I definitely lean Wyoming here. It's going to be a defensive game. It's going to be at Wyoming. Obviously, the elevation isn't really going to bother Colorado State, but I think Wyoming is a far better coached team, and I think it's more than a field goal here, which says something because Steve Adazio, he doesn't believe in going for it on 4th down. He'll kick the field goal, which again, people are going to kill him for that. And, I don't think Steve Adazio is a great coach. I think he's a good recruiter, and it seems like the players play hard for him and want to play for him. There was multiple Boston College kids that transferred to play for him at Colorado State, so that has to mean something. But I'm not gonna give the guy a hard time with this analytic conversation and him not going for it on 4th down. You have to know what type of team you have. And if you have a team that's not great on offense, and you're playing a team that is good on defense in Boise, I think maybe, when you have a good defense on the other side, they have a top 10 defense on the other side. So getting 3 points means a hell of a lot more than it does when the total's a 70-point total and you should be going for it. That's my opinion on it, especially when you're a favorite. You trust your defense in that spot, and I don't disagree with kicking the field goal 4th and goal from the 5. I mean, you take the points there every time. I don't care what analytics say. Now, if you're Alabama and you're forced from 5, go for it. If you have a great offense, you're going against a bad defense, you go for it there. But Boise State was a good defense, and Colorado State struggling on offense. You take the damn points. I'm sorry, I don't think it's as cookie cutter as people make it out to be, where you just kind of got to go for it on 4th down no matter what. And I'm gonna get sick of smart people talking about it that way. It's definitely based on the team, based on your opponent, based on where you are in the game, on whether you should go for it or not. That's my opinion on it. Finally, 2 more games. Maybe the misleading game of the week. Utep losing to Florida Atlantic 28-25. They outgained Florida Atlantic 436 to 279. They were -2 in turnover margin, 4 for 17 on 3rd down, and 3 for 5 on 4th down. Florida Atlantic was able to win and overcome the negative 200 yards in this game and going 1 for 15 on 3rd down. I don't know how they did that. Florida Atlantic is a fade against a top defense as their offense really struggles against top defenses. They seem to dominate the bad defenses, and that kind of inflates their overall offensive numbers. They face Marshall this week, a good defense, as a 2-point home dog. Marshall has dominated the state of Florida in the past, these games. They rank 29th in yard per play defense. I lean Marshall. And then you have UTEP on the other hand, 11.5-point dog at home against an undefeated Texas San Antonio team. So a very interesting game there. 2 teams that are overachieving. Really great stories for UTEP and UTSA. That's gonna be a good game as well. Stanford loses at home after a bye to Washington. They turned the ball over 3 times. It didn't really surprise me. They need to pass the ball to be successful at this point, and Washington has a very good pass defense. I think it's a buy low situation on Stanford this week as they host Utah on Friday night as a 7.5-point dog. So I lean Stanford. Tons of leans on the board this week. Hopefully, they come through and we're profitable on our leans. Again, they're not official plays by any means for me. So I'll just recap them. Stanford plus 7.5, Marshall -2, Wyoming +4, TCU +7, Georgia Tech plus 10.5, Nebraska plus 15, Cincinnati -22, South Carolina plus 19 are my podcast leans this week. So hope you guys enjoyed them. Good luck this week. Again, if you feel like picking up my premium package for the next 2 weeks, $109, guaranteed profit, or the rest of the season will be free. That's for NFL and college. You get my play of the days as well in that package. So make sure that you check that out at freddywills.com. Thanks for listening, and good luck this week on your bets.